United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just read an interesting article about the origin of that thing we just said there. It was actually a promotion. It was a promotion. It's kind of like a gimmick, like an advertising thing, where people were asked to submit this kind of thing or something like that. 18 something. Very similar to what we just said, but it was much shorter, more compact. Okay, so I am going to borrow this, if you don't mind, together. First order of business is the review and approval of our minutes from 2 months ago. Would have been the June meeting, because we didn't have a meeting last month due to lack of quorum. Any comments on those meetings or changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
A second?
Second. I think it was actually May, though. We skipped 2 meetings.
We skipped two. Two. Oh, is that right? Yeah, I think you are right. Wow. Okay. How about a motion to approve the May minutes then?
So moved.
And then so seconded as well. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Announce.
Should we ask for a minute taker?
Oh yeah, we're going to need a minute taker. That's right. Any volunteers? Come on. How about over here? Can you help out? Minutes?
Okay.
Thank you.
Sally's so kind. I have the announcements in written form at home, so I can send them to you so you don't have to write down the announcements. Unfortunately, I left them at home, so I'm going to try to remember what they were. There is a hazardous waste collection event in, it's at a new location in Media on September, I think it's the 20th, and it is at the Penn State campus in Media. I think it's the first time they're having it there. And anybody who's interested in disposing of their household hazardous waste should always go onto the Delaware County website, and they have a listing of all the events coming up. That's the best way to find those events. I want to remind everybody to check out the Pennsylvania Environmental Council website, which is recently updated. I think I mentioned this several times. The website is awesome, and there are more things than I can announce on their website. Interesting things, not necessarily maybe worthy of us talking about them right now, but really interesting articles. And they have a new one every other day or something like that. They must have a lot of content coming in, so it's good stuff. On the Radnor website, I noticed something interesting, that they are now posting forms for you to get rebates from your stormwater utility. So I didn't see that there last time I looked, so this might have been newly posted to the website. So you can download the form there. And I believe there might be 4 different ways you can get some money back from your stormwater utility. You can install a rain barrel. I believe you might get like $25 or $50 each barrel that you put in, up to 5 barrels. A rain garden, a cistern. I think the rain garden are up to $250 back. A cistern, like an underground thing, I think that's a couple hundred or something like that. And there was another one too, another one as well. Oh, diverting your downspout from a paved area to a garden or a lawn area will also get you some money back as well. You can't use your ordinance mandated measures that you have used to appease the stormwater gods when you're trying to do your addition or your new driveway or your new patio. You can't use those and try to get money back from those. So it has to be voluntary, and also has to be new measures after things that you have done after June 15th of this year. So it can't be the old ones.
And I'm pretty sure that it's also just a one-time rebate. It's not like your annual fee is reduced that much. You get this one credit and then you're done.
Yep.
Unless you add something else.
Yeah, like if you put one rain barrel in every year, you can just keep applying for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all that's on the Township website. Yep, right in their homepage right now. Yep. Any other announcements? I had another one, but I can't remember what it is.
Yes, I do. So an update, a heads up from Brenda Gotanda, who is now on the board of the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary. They have some interesting events coming up. She says the group is really cool, working to connect people with their local watersheds and promote healthy waters with science-based projects. So 2 coming up soon. There is something called the Pennsylvania Coast Day on September 12th from 11 to 4 at Penn's Landing, which will have boat rides, kayaks, face painting, pedal boating, stuff like that. There will also be an oyster schooner sail on September 10th aboard a refurbished 1928 oyster schooner. And other events coming up a little further down the road are also listed, and it is DelawareEstuary.org, if anybody would like to look into that. Second one is, I had mentioned months ago that there was a rating system being developed by several bodies, including the Lady Bird Johnson Wildlife Center, the U.S. Botanic Garden, and others. And actually, this was announced in June. They have launched their newly, the Green Business Certification, Inc. launched the CITES rating system, which had just acquired at that time. And so it has gone public and official. It can be used, applied to development projects located on sites with or without buildings. It uses progressive industry standards for landscape design and incorporates recommendations from experts in the fields of soil science, botany, horticulture, hydrology, materials, and human health and well-being. And some of the credits for this system were developed in alignment with similar credits in the LEED system, rating systems. I guess some weren't. And so it's really quite a groundbreaking, no pun intended, new initiative and way of approaching landscape design, and in a whole attempt to do for landscape design and practice exactly what's been happening with green buildings. So that's pretty interesting. What's the website? I don't know. If you Google sustainable sites, SITES, it will come right up. And then the last one I wanted to mention was Penn State Extension and PHS tree tenders are having an arborist short course this fall in Philadelphia. 2 different, well, I'm not sure if this is all one package or not. October 28 and 29 and November 4 and 5. So it's 32 hours, so it's all together 4 installments of this class. So you can find out more at agsci.ps, well, I'll include that in the minutes, it's too long. So, Arborist School.
Thanks, Sally. Any other announcements? All right, next order of business are our work group reports. And we haven't had a green team meeting in 2015, to my knowledge. But we do have a meeting scheduled for before our next EAC meeting. So it might not be a full green team meeting, but it'll at least be trying to get it kicked back up again.
When will that be?
That will be September 24th, which happens to be our next EAC meeting as well. But it'll be before that, sometime before that.
And Josh, maybe we should ask that it be the full green team, and if not,
Yeah, I think it can be the whole green team. And then I think maybe if we needed to just chat via email or something like that beforehand to sort of set an agenda.
Right.
I think it's appropriate, yeah.
I agree.
Sustainable parks are the next work group report. Sal, you said you might be able to help us by letting us know if anything happened since the last time we talked about it.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of incremental progress. We have sort of communicated amongst ourselves, the 3 of us, a little bit, and I did a little bit of research looking into what some other municipalities have done regarding green grounds policies. So not necessarily exactly what we're looking to do, but sort of the closest I could find, because something along those lines is an item that you can get a credit for either under the Sustainable New Jersey Municipal Rating Program and also something similar under the Pennsylvania Sustainable Communities Program. So I was looking at municipalities who had gotten the points for having such a policy to see kind of what their policies look like. And they vary from, they're generally pretty short, but they vary, you know, in what they look like. So that was just a little bit of background information. Matt and I took a little trip a couple Sundays ago to just see some of the parks that one or both of us hadn't seen before. So that was instructive.
So did it seem like there were things, ideas beyond the meadowization and reduced mowing? What kind of?
Well, I think there are, but we haven't really had a chance to, the three of us, put our heads together other than what I just said, just because of scheduling conflicts and so forth. You know, a couple things jumped out at me when we were looking at those parks, like algae problem in one park. I think invasives is definitely something to consider. And I noticed in the action item on the greenhouse gas action plan, invasives actually wasn't mentioned. It did talk about using and planting native plants, but it didn't actually talk about removing invasives. And I know that can be expensive and a lot of work, but I think it's certainly a point to keep in mind because they're all over. Mm-hmm. And there were just other things like that. But like I said, we haven't even had a chance to regroup after those things I just mentioned.
I was going to say well, in terms of removing invasives, I'm all about that, removing invasives, but they probably didn't necessarily belong as a greenhouse gas reduction action item. You know, it belongs as an action item somewhere else, I think, probably, since it doesn't reduce greenhouse gases to remove them. Did you guys, have you guys reviewed our sustainable parks policy that we have, that Radnor has? Right, we had something that
some recommendations in the greenhouse gas action plan.
And then beyond that, though, we developed some sort of text. Luke, help me out here. I'm struggling a bit.
Yeah,
we did approve something, didn't we?
From what I recall, there was a proposal out there.
Proposal
that needs to be reviewed and pushed forward. So, you know, what we discussed was having whoever wanted to come attend our Parks and Rec meeting on the 10th, so that we can all put our heads together and either have a joint effort or mirroring separate efforts to finally nail that down, because I'm happy to take part in it. I know the last time it was brought up, the meadowization particularly was something that some of the members, I don't want to say balked at, but said we don't know if that's going to be viable up at the next level, up at the BOC level. And Public Works was weighing in saying they were worried about it costing more to take care of, you know, to make sure the meadowization is properly done and cared for and things like that. The bottom line is I want to get people there who have done a lot of the research, like Sally or anybody else, so that they can explain what parks we're targeting, maybe not targeting, but what parks we think this could work in at Parks and Rec, so that we can all be on the same page and hopefully have something to produce that's concrete up to the BOC. So that's my thought. I don't want to speak for Parks and Rec at all.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to have them there so that everybody can weigh in, and Public Works as well, because obviously they're part of the equation too. So
I recall now what we started working on. It wasn't necessarily an action plan towards a sustainable parks here in Radnor. It was more like I thought we started working on a policy where it was nothing spoke. We didn't speak to anything in particular. We just talked about safe usage of pesticides and herbicides, minimization. I think we talked about reducing it as much as feasible, but we never said how to do it or where to do it. But I think it was just more of a vague, broad kind of a policy. I thought we got it through to the BOC, but I don't remember what happened to it after that.
Policy resolution type thing, yeah, best practices type thing, yeah.
So you're talking about something other than what's in the greenhouse gas action item?
Yes.
So who was involved in this and when was it? Because I don't remember ever hearing or seeing that.
This was a while ago. It was about 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. I'll have to dig out a little bit more, see what we have.
Matt is planning to go to the next Parks Board meeting.
September 10th?
Yes. Yep, September 10th, 6:30. We're usually upstairs.
Okay. I might like to go to that too.
You should. I think that'd be very helpful. So.
Well, hopefully before then, maybe I can dig out. Maybe I can just clear up my mind about what I'm recalling. Maybe it was just something we started work on and never really got to a resolution.
And I understand what you're saying about trying to stay away from specifics, but I know the people on my board they're gonna be looking for some sort of specifics, especially which parks we're looking at for some of this stuff. So, to the extent that doesn't blend, I don't know. Maybe there's something we can all work on and compromise on that works for everybody. So that's just what I recall from our last meeting and talking about it. So just a heads up.
Well, clearly these guys have just gotten started talking, and they certainly don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Sally, but it sounds like you guys aren't ready to talk specifics about what we're recommending.
I don't think so,
or anything. Yeah. And I don't think it'll happen before then, but I think it is important that we hear where you guys
Sure.
Are thinking, like, is there a way that we can help?
Yeah.
Like you said, work together, work separately with mirroring, or just act as a support or something like that. It's important. We picked out sustainable parks because we thought it was one of our most important remaining action items to look at next after we finished green power purchasing. And so we feel strongly about it. We're happy to help in any way we can, and we certainly don't want to step on any toes. So I think the next meeting would be very interesting to see if we're on the same page.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I don't mean to make it sound like you need a specific 18-point plan here, but that's something that they're going to be responding with, I'm sure, based upon our last meetings. But just to understand where we're all at, I think it makes a lot of sense. So.
Any other thoughts on that? Okay. So next order of business are the community environmental education and awareness. I just want to point out that school starts next week, and the Wayne Elementary School Green Team is going to be educating the kids on recycling practices, as usual. Beginning of the school year is what we always try to do. And you would be surprised how little they know about recycling. It's shocking. So, very important business, right, guys? And here's my two sheriffs. They like to, point out what they're doing wrong as people come in. That's recyclable.
Good thing to know.
So the PTO has a green team as part of it, and I volunteer for that group. So it's just volunteers. It's not directly related to the school. So they let us come in for a week during all the lunches. There's 5 lunches in a row, and we talk to them in the beginning and let them know what's recyclable and what's not. Actually, I don't have to do it for 5 days. You can probably now just do it for 2 days because kindergarten is now full day. So you get all the kids in one day. So maybe I can shrink it down to 1 or 2. Be nice. Any other community environmental education or awareness items? Liaison reports. We only have one. Luke?
Sure.
Parks and Rec.
Sure. Over the past month, we've been busy. There was the night at the ballpark on July 29th, which was where they play the Phillies game on the big screen right here at Enke. They have the Philly Fanatic, who at one point was stopping cars coming down Ivan and inspecting them while we were trying to get a picture with them. So we unveiled the new sign out there. There are plenty of vendors there. They have bouncy houses that my kids were in, the whole 9 yards, really. Well attended. As usual, it seems like more and more people are there every year. So it was a good event, strong event that we'll do again next year, as far as I know. And then we had technically the 3rd summer concert series on August 5th at Bo Connor Park, which turned out to be a very good a very good concert. It's right in the neighborhood over there, right off of South Devon, and that turned out to be a very good concert, well attended. The neighbors there, some of them were able to sit on their decks and watch it, which I was envious of. But we had a great time. We had our blanket out and everything. And then the second concert series that was rained out was held on the 12th at Veterans Park, formerly St. David's Park, with the kids from Bach de Rock, if you know what that is. They did a great job. Again, well attended by the neighbors, and also a lot of people from outside the neighborhood came in. So these things have generated a lot of interest and a lot of attendance, which has been good. The fall events guide was mailed out to everybody, so if you haven't received it yet, look for it or email Tammy, and she'll get it to you. That shows everything that's coming up in the fall. There's a lot of stuff going on as usual. What's coming up is the Truck Zoo on the 12th at 2:30 in the parking lot next to the post office and the library across from the firehouse there. So if you like construction vehicles, police trucks, municipal trucks, things of that nature, they're all there. The kids can see them, get in them, check them out. It's a good event. Oh, no, there's no animals. No alpacas or anything like that. And then also, so that's the next event in the next month. The pumpkin patch is on the 4th. And then the Radnor runs at the end of October. So those are things we can get into more detail on next time. But additionally, through the township, fall T-ball starts at Enke Park on September 11th. My son's in that, so we're looking forward to that. And then Soccer Shot starts on Saturday mornings on the 12th at Clem McCrone Park, and both my kids are in that. And both of those are great programs. My kids enjoy them. If you have children 2 to 6, I think it goes up to, they're good programs for anybody out there. So that's it.
Thanks, Luke. Did you happen to get the privilege of meeting the friend of the fanatic?
The friend of the fanatic?
Yes.
No, I met the fanatic, and I met who was it, the River Shark, the other mascot, the minor league. But that's who I met.
Okay. The friend of the fanatic is the person who's most intimately familiar with the Philly Fanatic. If you're familiar with what I'm talking about, like actually inside the costume. They're not allowed to say that because Fanatic is not a costume; it's a real monster. It's a real monster, right. Clearly. But he's a great guy, by the way. He's really cool. Are you going to start talking about Santa Claus? Thank you. And any old business to discuss?
Yeah, I'd like to mention the effort to get a hybrid vehicle on the town's budget priorities. We came close last year, if you recall, and it didn't go all the way through. So I think we should, in the course of the Green Team discussions and maybe beyond that, reach out and see if we can't get a hybrid to be added to the budget. I think this is kind of when the budget process is starting to get real. So I'd like to reach out to Melissa and others and just say, hey, where are we? We came close last year. We'd like to try to get that moving forward this year.
Are there any types or classes of vehicles you're targeting in terms
of
those
There are,
hybrids?
These sort of light-duty vehicles. There were a couple, 2, 3 good candidates. At least there were last year. And I think we should inquire as to, whether they have slots like that. That's sort of the low-hanging fruit. So I think we should at least ask and see if they're planning to replace a light-duty vehicle this year, and whether a hybrid might be a good candidate for it.
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I hope they do.
So we should wait till our Green Team meeting to find out about who knows about what vehicles are going to make the requisition list?
I thought maybe what I'd do is I'd reach out to Melissa as a first step and say, is this in the process at this point? We'd like to reiterate our interest in it, find out whether it is in the process. If so, show support. If not, begin the effort to try to get it there. Mm-hmm. But open to other suggestions, and I think we would also bring it up at the Green Team meeting where we have in the past brought it up. So And
So maybe, what do you think about swinging for the fences here a little bit? What do you say we just jump right to plug-in? I'm serious.
I love it.
I'm serious, because sometimes
Are you also now are you a plug-in or hybrid? Okay, but still, hybrid's good.
sometimes, like, hybrids are fairly ubiquitous these days. But maybe the shock of us requesting
Shock and awe.
the shock of us requesting an all-electric vehicle will at least get some publicity, and maybe people raise some awareness of what we're trying to do here.
Are there any municipalities around us, whether it's Jersey, Delaware, here, that employ any plug-ins or hybrids?
Well, I would start
we
looking
know?
at Swarthmore. That's
Yeah.
where I would
Yeah.
start, and then
Yeah.
I would check out
Yeah.
Lower Merion. I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay, just curious.
I can look into that. That's a good question.
I'm sure we have vehicles that would fall under the the low mileage per day kind of limitation that a plug-in electric might have, like a
Right.
code enforcement or a parking
Right.
enforcement or something like that.
Good
Yeah,
idea.
Just
Well,
a thought. Just a thought.
Why don't I do a little work and see what we can find out about other townships doing it, and then I don't think it hurts to make the suggestion that there be a hybrid in the budget and consideration of a plug-in hybrid. And then we can build on that if it's promising. Maybe we can really focus in on that. I will say, I was encouraged to see a FedEx delivery truck go by with a big, this is a hybrid vehicle on the side. Given that they drive a few miles, that's really great to see. And that's not light duty. That's a big truck. So that's very encouraging to see a company taking some leadership like that. But to our level and our efforts, I just wanted to say I'd like to reach out and get that ball rolling again.
Yeah.
And
Is there electric charging at the Public Works depot, or I'm trying to remember
I don't think
where they would plug
I mean,
in if
they
we got
have-
one?
I mean, there is a public charger, as we know, by the train station that's available for any vehicle, public or township vehicle. So I guess one concept would be if they had just one, they needed to charge it overnight, they could use the one that's at the train station. But I think there are some other chargers, private location chargers, one by the Radnor train station.
By the Radnor train station,
Right.
that business center there, I
Right.
think there's one in there.
So those are dedicated chargers. You don't necessarily have to have a dedicated charger. You could literally have just an outlet that is used for it. But I think we can, I don't think it's a very big hurdle to find an outlet that could be used. I do it with my car and charge it outside, so it doesn't even have to be in a garage. But I think that would be the kind of thing we could explore and push for if there's openness, or even if there's not. So I like it. Why don't we bring it up to the green team and even before that? So.
I wanted to return once more to the issue of artificial turf, because I know we've discussed it somewhat in the past. It's been a few months, and I've never gotten any feedback from research I've sent around, compiling, in a quick summary, what I've found out about, the research that has been done into the urban island heat effect aspect of artificial turf, as well as some other issues, but that being perhaps the one that seemed kind of, in my mind, a little bit not addressed previously. So first of all, if anybody wants to have a substantive discussion about that, great, but I know there was certain language that the EAC used in responding to Leo's inquiry. In my mind, that language was not quite satisfactory. I think it was overly positive or didn't indicate any sort of reservations. I can suggest alternate language, which I would be more comfortable with, for one. But a couple other things. There was a new study that was conducted by Yale that came out, a report about it came out in June, that talked about not the environmental aspects, the health aspects, and how a lot of, I can summarize it here, I have a printout, but basically how a lot of the substances haven't been properly tested, and of the ones that have been properly tested, a number of them are linked with cancer concerns or other sort of health concerns. And I bring that up not because it's our purview, I know it's not, but because I don't understand why the health group in the township has not been asked to look at this issue again since the last time I think they looked at it was 2008. And that's a while ago. So, in addition to whatever environmental aspects we consider, I would at least urge that the health people really should weigh in on this. I really feel that they should.
I think if I'll just jump in real quick here, I'll volunteer to make a connection with the Board of Health and ask them, to give us an update on if there's been any new discussion from them since the 2008 special meeting they had to discuss it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then two other points I wanted to make. Obviously, we've been having a lot of very high temperatures lately, and something I read in all of this research, in just sort of in passing, mentioned an effect of artificial turf and the heat island effect on street trees, which would be another sort of angle. There's a lot of angles to all of this. But just the fact that we've had so many high temperatures in the last few months indicates that the fact that artificial turf absorbs heat, it's going to be absorbing heat if we're having a lot of 85 and 90 degree temperature days, which seems to be becoming more normal than not. And then finally, I wanted to sort of raise the issue of precedent, because a couple of the professors whose literature or research I reported to the group on said that, it's not that any one field is going to make or break anything. It's an incremental effect of having places that absorb heat, whether it's artificial turf or black roofs or whatever it is. All of that incrementally is what makes up the urban heat island effect. And as a matter of precedent, if we come out and say, we have no problem with this, does that mean that anyone else in the township, private or public, should be encouraged to go out and be putting in more artificial turf or other heat island effect related materials as well? As a matter of precedent, I think we should be, thinking clearly about this. So those were the points I wanted to raise.
Well, I can tell you this, that I was prepared to have a substantive discussion with you on this matter at the June meeting and the July meeting, and it's now been 3 months since I've reviewed this stuff. But I sure would like to see what you have to recommend in terms of re-coaching that. But really, I only thought we had the minutes of the meeting with when we had Leo Burnaby here, and the minutes of that meeting was our report basically. So we didn't prepare anything other than those minutes. Is that right? That's right. And at the end of that meeting, there was, like you said, a sentence or two, basically, that summarized our position at the time. And I think that's what you're referring to, right? Those 2 sentences or so, right? So I'd like to see an alternate to that, if you don't mind circulating them around. Okay. We didn't mean to. I thought the intent at the time was not to express our enthusiasm for them putting it in. It was more like to say it was more of a position of non-opposition, like where we said, We didn't find anything that would preclude us from, or prevent us from recommending it, right? Which I guess kind of means that we do recommend it, right? So hey, if we can word it better, I'm all about wording it better.
Right.
I think I'm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think my understanding is that we weren't recommending. We were trying to provide some update on on the research, the environmental findings out there, and shed light if there is a consensus growing that there are environmental issues with artificial turf, that the township should know about those. I think our task was somewhat limited and modest in terms of trying to see if there was a very definitive study that showed some environmental issues that should be taken into consideration. And at least I have not yet seen that or found that. I applaud you for continuing to look. I think it's on us to keep an eye open on this and to see if I don't think anybody, including the person at the EPA that I talked to, who's their artificial turf expert, nobody has said, this is a closed issue. It's settled. We know for sure it does or does not cause environmental issues. So I think it's an open issue that we should continue to look at. I'd be happy to continue to look at research and things that you find or anybody finds. And if we find something that rises to the level of identifying significant, or even, possible environmental issues, I think we should let the township know. So I'd be happy also to look at the language and make sure that it wasn't stronger than intended. And I, in terms of the health effects, I think, look, we're citizens of the township, and if there are big health effects that are being found, at the very least, we should refer it to the experts, to the health board, and have them take a look at it. So I think it's good work. It's well worth it. And I would be, I think we should look at how we've phrased it to make sure we didn't go too far. But at the same time, I haven't yet, and I did look at the research you sent around, and it has been a few months, but I didn't think there was anything in that was, to the level of suggesting an environmental, definitive environmental issue that we need to stop the projects with. But why don't we continue the discussion, see if your language, would get support from the EAC. Does that make sense?
I'll be happy to send suggested language around.
Great. Great.
Anything else on that? Any other old business? New business.
I think we should talk about algae issues. Luke helped bring to our attention that there are some folks who are interested and concerned about algae at various ponds, including the Fenimore Pond, and that there has been some work done by the township with respect to the Willows Pond and some algae control measures taken there. We had hoped to have Steve Norsini come tonight and discuss what is being done there. He unfortunately couldn't attend, but we've invited him to the September EAC meeting, and with hopefully he will be able to join us there. I think we should consider whether maybe this is a subpart of the Sustainable Parks effort. If so, I'd be happy to help if needed, looking at what can be done responsibly for algae control. I did a quick look at what's on the EPA site. Not a lot, but there is some material about algae. And then there are, as you can imagine, other sources of information, there's a University of Washington Department of Ecology algae control program article, which is interesting, talking about different ways of controlling algae, which range from quite environmentally friendly to not so great. So I think it would be good to educate ourselves a little bit on what the options are, and then, you know, have a good discussion with the township in terms of how they're doing it, and you know, what plans there are for expanding it. So if that's something that should be part of the sustainable parks, that's great. If it's a separate topic, that's great as well. But I'd be happy to help look into that issue. And again, I think we can learn from Steve what the township is doing, hopefully at the next EAC meeting.
Yeah, and Parks and Rec, it's usually either Mr. Norsini or Mark Dominic who are there. So we'll have somebody live.
Oh, good.
I can't remember the last time one of them was not there. So someone will be there at Parks and Rec where this can be brought up. You know, their feeling is that it's part of regular maintenance.
Yeah.
So when we were discussing, you know, a special funding or time to do this, they basically said, you know, it's part of our maintenance schedule, but it hasn't been done. And from what I understand, it has to be done in the spring, so we've missed the time period. So I think that'll be a good time to bring that up, like you said, within the umbrella of that sustainable policy, and get a consensus on when that's going to be done and how.
Okay. So there's not been anything at Willows to date, to your knowledge? Okay.
Not to my knowledge,
okay.
no.
Okay. But it definitely sounds like there are groups that are interested in it, pushing for it, particularly with respect to Fenimore, which has a pretty dramatic issue.
Oh, yeah, it's bad. I mean, I drive by there a couple times a week, and yeah, it's bad. That's the North Wayne Protective Association that reached out to us, so Mike Miller.
It was some individuals that happened to be members had reached out, and then, you're right, Mike Miller, who's the president, offered to sort of bring the NWPA in as somebody throwing a little bit more weight around, and maybe helpful as a partner.
Yeah.
Something that.
Yeah, and they were pushing for a meeting, and you know, and we kind of thought, hey, let's just get them in here, you know, with us. So you know, we'll keep trying. Maybe I'll see if they'll come to Parks and Rec on the 10th too. Maybe we'll make it a nice big meeting on the 10th. So.
Any other new business? No. Any public comment? Any interesting
ready for soccer.
Observations on water usage in London?
Yes.
So if you do me a favor, just stand up and pull the microphone down towards your face, and it should be on. Touch it. Yep. And then just say your name and where you live, and tell us about your story.
My name is Sam. I live in Wayne, just down the block a little bit, and it came to my mind that I saw in London, most public bathrooms in London had urinals that were on a timer. So there was one big tank, and then all the urinals were connected to that tank. And on like every 10 minutes, they would go off and all flush. This was everywhere in London, and it didn't, they weren't very aware of the water wastage. And also, like, in playgrounds, they had, like, water pumps that you would just pump out water and then just play in the water. And it was just a lot of waste. So, yeah.
That's very interesting. Since I am your father, I happen to be there with you, and I noticed that as well.
That's great.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome.
Yes, they are not concerned about water conservation in England. I can promise you that. They could not care less about that.
It is a little rainy and
Did it
over there.
Did it seem like they were older systems though?
Yeah,
And
they did, of course,
Yeah.
but then whenever they replaced them, you could tell that they were being replaced with it was a new tank and a new control and a new timer. And it was a fancy, very fancy system that did exactly the same thing it did before.
But
you know?
in defense of London, I will say, when I recently went there, I was impressed by how many bicyclers there were. Did you guys notice? There were a lot of people biking around, some of them a little aggressively.
Yeah, yeah.
But at least it seemed like a lot of people were biking around the city.
Public transit is great there, and
Yeah.
tiny cars.
Tiny cars.
Where necessary. So they do some things right.
That's right.
Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and not easy to get up and talk in front of people, so good
No,
job.
really
job.
good job.
Yeah, that's
All right. There being no other public comments. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, young lady, step up. Please say your name and where you live.
My name's Amelia Hilbert, and I live in Wayne, just down the street, just where Sam lives. And I noticed that also in London, they tried to keep all their vehicles nice and tidy so there weren't lots of pollution, because I noted lots of the double-decker buses and all the buses and everything, they all said hybrids, and they were trying to make London go green.
Oh, that's great. That is
Good
really
observation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there being no other public comment, meeting adjourned.
All right.